Good morning, everyone, and happy Wellness Wednesday. This week on Wellness Wednesday, which is a series of all different aspects of wellness, this week we're going to talk with Jess Sato, who is the owner and founder of Two Smart Girls. And she's going to be really focusing on building routines that stick. So, Jess is a friend of mine here in Colorado Springs. So, welcome, Jess. Glad to have you this week.
I'm glad to be here.
And just a little background about her, she is a business strategist who is passionate about helping women transition from corporate into entrepreneurship. And she has had history with two successful businesses, leadership roles in Fortune 250 company, and literally has quite the resume here. And so I'm grateful that she agreed to be on our Wellness Wednesday to really talk about our routines and the importance of that, especially during these times of COVID when many of us feel our lives are in turmoil and every day we're thrown for a loop here and there. So we will just go ahead and dive right in. So welcome again, Jess.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So tell us what I haven't explained yet about yourself, kind of a little backstory, maybe Two Smart Girls, how that came to be. Maybe a little bit about your partner also.
Okay.
Yeah.
So as you said, I worked in corporate for a lot of years. I ended up leaving and had a couple of different businesses. One that was like a cookie and cupcake business that is completely different than anything else I've ever done. But my heart is really in development and helping people figure out the right path for them, whether that's into entrepreneurship, whether that's taking a different trajectory in their career. And Two Smart Girls really came about because my partner, Christy Metcalf, who lives in Dallas, she and I were working on a really amazing project in Ethiopia. And we just had some very powerful experiences where we were forced to confront the fact that we had owned businesses, but that we really weren't acting as if we owned the business. We were kind of allowing things to happen and never really taking the front seat or the driver's seat in running the business. And it wasn't until we had to put a stake in the ground that it really hit us both actually that, wow, we haven't been doing this for ourselves. And then we got to thinking, how many other women are doing this? And so, over the course of the last 2 years, we've really been working to build Two Smart Girls. And our heart really is with women who are still in the corporate space, partly because that's where we spent a lot of our own years, but also because there is a unique way of doing business in corporate. And when you transition into entrepreneurship, all of those normal things, the structure, the schedule, the things that make corporate what it is, kind of go away, and now you're left on your own. And so our heart is really around helping women figure out if entrepreneurship is right for them. And if so, how do you step into entrepreneurship gracefully without a bunch of stress, or more stress than can come naturally with it. And so, a big part of that for me has been around building time management systems and routines and habits that allow me to manage my day in a way that in corporate would have come very naturally, but now I have to manage that on my own.
Definitely. I was going to say that's a perfect segue into reality of an entrepreneur, and also something that now that many corporate are working from home, that you also need that same routine and structure. So awesome. So let's dive in. So historically, why do most routines and habits that we create not or stick? Why don't they stick? Sorry.
Yeah, this is such a good question because if you think about your own life with routines, right? A lot of times we get these big grandiose ideas, right? I want to build a morning routine, right? Or I want to build this new exercise habit, or whatever it might happen to be. And so we think really big, and that bigness, while there's nothing wrong with it, becomes very overwhelming. And it's very hard to step into this big space and not have any system to support you. So the goal is too big, or the routine is too complex. What else? Sometimes we don't even set ourselves up for success by creating an environment that allows it, right? So if I use exercise a lot because I know that that's something that people, and diet even, are things that people can really relate to. So we, like I said, we make these big goals, but then we don't set ourselves up for success to do those. So we still have all the same garbage food in the pantry. We don't allocate time in our schedule or get enough sleep to allow us to work out, right? So not having the right environment, even the right physical cues to help us do that really well. And one of the things I think that we don't do enough of is celebrate the little wins, right? Real habits that are successful are built over time. So, the habits, whether they're good or bad, that you have right now in your own life, they didn't come because you woke up yesterday and said, oh, I'm going to start this habit. It's based on little tiny decisions and little tiny celebrations that you make over and over and over again. And I think we lose sight of taking credit for the little bits and pieces that have helped us build those along the way. So, if I really think about it, it's trying to change everything at once, going too big, not putting the systems in place to help you be successful. And then, like I said, not really accepting credit for or discounting those small changes that are really necessary to move us forward.
Yeah, I completely agree with that, because I think when I transitioned from classroom teacher to mom to entrepreneur, that was something that I immediately was like, oh, I want to do all these things. But then it was like, what am I doing? How do I do it? And you just kind of had to figure it out. So building routine was a huge component in I even feel my success, because I have to have my structure, my routine to keep me normal each day.
Mm-hmm.
So it's huge.
Well, and when you throw kids in the mix, right? So you transition from a job where you have kids now that you're responsible for. So, kids don't really like to function in the routine that you have decided for yourself. So, really finding ways to either include them in that or build your routine around them, right? I mean, all of that, that's why it takes like little baby steps, because you have to figure out what works. There's a lot of tweaking that has to happen in there.
And it's not the same every day. I think
Right.
There's tweaking, especially when you have kids, there's tweaking on a weekly basis. There's tweaking, when they're elsewhere versus at home, or, when they're sick, when they're not. Like there's flexibility, but you still have that structure. Yeah, mm-hmm. I like it. Okay, so what is the best way to build a routine that will actually work?
So I like to really take a step back from the actual habit or routine creation and really get back to what is it that you're trying to do. And the way I think about this is almost like reflecting on your values a bit, right? A lot of times we'll say, I want to fill in the blank. And it's something that sounds good. Maybe it's something we think we should do, but it's not rooted in anything with real depth. So I like to have people really think about, what is their why for doing this? How is it linked to a deeper set of core values? So, if you want to, like, I'll use my mother-in-law as an example. I think this is a really great example of how she did this well. So she and my father-in-law and some other family members were going on an Alaskan cruise, but my mother-in-law had really bad knees. And there was just no way that she could do that trip justice if she couldn't walk long distances. And so she really dug in and made some significant changes in her life, got knee surgery, did the PT, built it all up. And that was a habit that formed over time, but it was rooted in a much deeper thing. She wanted to have this rich experience with her husband and with her brother and sister-in-law. And so it added depth, it added weight to it. And, a lot of times people will, like I said, they'll say, I want to do something, but it's just like a thing that sounds good or something that they think they need to do. And maybe they do legitimately need to do it. Maybe they do need to lose weight. Maybe they do need to whatever, put some kind of time protocol in place. But if it's not connected to something that matters and that they really care about, then there's no way the commitment is going to stay there, right? Motivation enough is not enough. So it has to be rooted in something deeper. That's the first thing I would say. And the second thing I would say is you have to really build a system to support the routine. Mm-hmm. So I, a few years ago, had really terrible migraine. I'd never had anything like that before. And I kept thinking, how can I set myself up for success, build this newer way of living into my life? And I knew all this research around habits, that it needed to be something that was rooted in something that mattered. I wanted to be healthy. I wanted to be present and available. I'm a business owner. I'm a mom, a wife, all of that. And so I said, okay, I need to take some baby steps. And it started with going to bed earlier every day. And then it started as, getting up a little bit earlier to exercise. And over time, that routine built. And so I always say, start small and build a system to support you. Clear the distractions from your physical environment, make it fun so that it's something that you actually want to do. I mean, I don't know many people who are like, oh yes, I want to get up at 5:30 in the morning and exercise. So, trying to attach additional things to it so that it becomes not like a have to, but I get to do this.
Definitely. And I think laying it out and thinking a few steps ahead is something that helps me a ton. Is like, if I'm going to get up and have my morning routine, well, then I've got to have everything in a place where I'm going to go and sit and actually do it, rather than have one thing here and one thing there and have to go gather it all in the morning. I'm not going to do it if it's like that.
Well, and that's what I mean by, creating the physical space or creating the environment, right? And the other thing that kind of goes along with that, and you're sort of speaking to it, is this, removing the obstacles that keep you from doing it. So, for me to get up and work out in the morning, I don't want to be, searching around my room, trying to find my workout shoes, my sports bra, my pants. Everything is laid out in the same place every single day, so that when I get up, I don't have to turn on the lights. I even have gotten to the point where I lay my socks, because they're like left sock, right sock. I lay them out that way. I have my, everything is in order. And so, it just, make it simple for yourself. Remove the obstacles that will keep you from actually doing it or giving yourself an excuse, especially if it's early in the morning, right? And I don't know about you, but I find myself, even if I still get enough sleep, I still feel tired in the morning. I don't know if that's just being a mom, if that's just the times, if it's just all of it combined. So I have to actively not give myself excuses to not do those things.
Totally. It makes me think of this is kind of a silly example. Like in a shower, all your stuff is always in the shower when you're taking a shower. If you had to gather all that every single time you took a shower, you wouldn't want to take showers. But we take showers and we make it easy for ourselves to keep all the things in our shower.
Exactly.
I was like, that's kind of a funny analogy, but it's the reality. That's how you make it easy and have a quick shower when you need a quick shower.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Okay. So what are some practical ideas for sticking with a routine?
So, I was thinking about this a lot because, like I said, part of it is some of the things we talked about, making sure your environment is good, making sure you've removed the obstacles. But I think a big thing for me personally, and this is something that we do in our house, and we call it a life date. My husband and I do this almost every Sunday, and we sit down and look at our calendar and figure out what's going on. Because part of it is about managing your time and being committed. So if I know, for example, that I have an early morning meeting, then that means that I'm going to have to do, you like how my printer just came on in the background? Sorry about that. Okay. That means for me that I need to be clear on what's coming. I need to be able to put everything in place so that I can be successful. It also, I think, we don't talk about this a lot, but having some grace with ourselves so that we can, just recognize that it's not always going to go to plan, that there are going to be times where the kids interrupt, where you have a bad night of sleep, where, somebody else's thing gets in the way, all of that. So, to me, it really is about making sure that you have clarity about what's going on in your life and where all the pieces fall into place. It's about setting yourself up for success. It's about, and I think having some grace. And, I was thinking about this in particular with little kids, moms, especially with little kids. And this obviously applies to men too. But, I find that, so my kids are a bit older. They tend to be self-sufficient. I don't have a lot of interruptions in terms of them, getting up super early anymore. But as I thought about, some of my close friends, they have young children. And especially during this time where you're not getting much separation, this is where I really wanted to emphasize the importance of adding a little grace to your schedule and also giving yourself permission to do things that maybe you wouldn't normally do, right? Like maybe you're not big on screen time for your kids, but if you don't have a break and you find yourself kind of bumping against that edge and really not being able to do the kinds of things that you want to do for your normal routine or what have you for your own personal self-care, then maybe it's, you give them 10, 15, 20 minutes on a device. Maybe it's you put them in the stroller and you go out for a walk and you've got your headphones in. Maybe it's, taking advantage of quiet time or nap times in a way that maybe you haven't always done for you. So, to me, routines and habits, are things that you have to build and recognize that it's not always going to go to plan.
Totally. I completely agree. And I love the concept of like the life date. I think that's so important, not just like with that routine, but for big goals, big achievements. That's something that I have some big things coming up in my life. And so Kent and I, we've already been talking through a lot of that. Like, what does that look like for us as a family? What does that look like as we go forward? How does it impact both of us and the kids? And what sacrifices are coming up because of this too?
Yeah.
And so, I think that that's something that's so important, is that communication piece with your family. Yeah.
Well, and I'll tell you a little, the life data is something that we've been doing now, not just like the weekly thing, like I was saying, but kind of like what you are talking about, these bigger things. And we do it at the end of the year, beginning of the year. Usually it ends up in January, where we're doing some reflection, but then also planning. And then we have tried to institute quarterly, sometimes it bleeds into like every 6 months, where we sit down and say, okay, what's coming on the calendar? What are the big things, like you said, that are coming? What do we need to do? What do we need to change? Is this something that we want to keep doing? And, it all comes back to, like you said, the communication and the little decisions, and not making those decisions in isolation, right? Because like, it's easy to look at the calendar and be like, oh yeah, we can fit that in. But the mechanics of making it all work together are really where the rubber meets the road. So, the life date has been essential for our family, not just, from the big picture perspective, but also on the weekly. So everybody adopt the life date. It's super fun.
I think it's a great concept. Okay, so to wrap up, I want you to kind of share a little bit about upcoming events and also the Facebook group that is for all the smart girls out there.
Oh, yes.
Tell us a little bit about them.
Okay, well, the Smart Girl community is a Facebook community, and it is for women who are still in that professional space or who have transitioned to entrepreneurship. And it is full of what I consider to be heart-centered, driven professional women who are really trying to build a life, and in some cases a business that they really love. And so it's a place where you can find encouragement, where you can ask questions, where you can get some accountability. It's just a really fun place to be. I love spending time there. And then in terms of upcoming events, I am very excited because at the end of May, we have a fun virtual workshop called Time to Rise, Shatter Your Own Glass Ceiling. And it is all about 6 very specific habits that we see almost, I don't want to say exclusively in women, but they show up a lot for women. Things like perfectionism, self-sabotage, and that sort of thing. And we are going to dig into those 6 habits and help walk through how those habits show up for each of us individually. And then what can we do about that? How can we build a plan that actually helps move us out of that habit so that we can recognize and then do something about it? So that's kind of the big thing that's coming up at the end of the month, which I'm super pumped about.
I'm pumped about it too. And share the price point, because it's like a steal.
It's totally a steal. Yeah. So when Christy and I were brainstorming, we went back and forth on the price because, we love doing workshops, but we wanted to make this super accessible. It's $25 for I think 3 hours. And we did that for a couple of reasons. One, because it's virtual, and this is going to be our first time doing like a for real virtual workshop with breakout rooms and the whole 9 yards.
Yeah.
But more importantly, because we really believe strongly that when women are aware of the things that are holding them back, it allows them to soar. And so our hope has always been with Two Smart Girls, but just in general, is equipping women with the information they need so that they can tackle the stumbling blocks in their own life, so that they can get out of their own way and be the successful person that they're meant to be. So yeah, if you are interested, you are more than welcome to join us. It's twosmartgirls.com. That's the number 2, smartgirls.com/rise conference or rise workshop.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing about that. I'm excited about it. Well, thank you for being my guest this week. I know everyone that's watching and will watch in the future is definitely going to come away with some tips on, that will help them during these times, but even if they're an entrepreneur working at home, to just build those routines for themselves. So thanks again for being here today.
You're welcome. I'm glad to be here.
Okay. Bye.
Okay. Bye.